Hey guys, Cloud here, and today I have a new data pack tool, which is based off of previous ones that people have actually been wanting me to update recently. Not really sure what the recent interest is, but I decided to go ahead and do it. It took me quite a while to get through this, but this is EasyLoot 2.0 or Loot Database 2.0, whatever you want to call it. But essentially, this is just a way to make loot tables in-game and then edit them in-game without having to change any of the JSON files. So what you need to do is go in the description. There will be a GitHub link on the releases page. There will be the latest version with whatever bug fixes I had to do. And you will download that zip file that's there. And then you're going to go into your new world, go into your data packs folder and paste it in there just like that. Then when you go into the game, you're going to type /reload. And after you type /reload, it will give you some messages. Now, if you enter the world like this, you actually will miss one of the messages that it tells you, but it actually places a shulker box at 0, -64, 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set that to air first and then type /reload again. And now it'll tell me no shulker box at 0, -64, 0. Detected, we placed one there. Is that okay? Well, there's really no way to say whether that is okay or not, but it's just kind of giving you information about what it's doing. So it's force loading 0, 0 and placing a shulker at 0, -64, 0. Now, I would like to make this a variable location, but I just haven't gone in and done that. So as long as you're fine with that block being there and it doesn't overlap with other data packs that puts a block there, then you should be fine. And the next thing it tells you is that there's no EasyLoot UI detected, and that's because you need a UI to edit the EasyLoot. And so to get that UI, you can click this button, and it's recommended that you put it somewhere near 0, 0. So after flying around for a while, I did find some land. I will place it here and go ahead and type /reload again. There's no problem with typing it multiple times. Then I click here and it will place the UI down for me. It's just a little barrel, which if you want to destroy it, you just break the barrel. So then inside here, we're going to get a very blank page. I might eventually add some better graphics, but I didn't want to force players to use a resource pack to make this work. So it works without a resource pack. Now, the way it works is inside the UI, you have a little green stained glass representing a place where a new entry goes. And so naturally, there are no entries. So what we need to do is we need to pick an item that will represent this first entry. So I'm going to pick, like, I don't know, a diamond sword to represent the first entry. I will put it right inside this, and it will create the entry. And it says EZL IDX 0. Then inside EZL IDX 0, we have another page, and this will have a blank nothing in the entry as well. It's got back, the item, and export. So now inside here, if I click this button, it will give me a pot, and we'll go over what that does once we actually add some entries to this. So what I want this one to do is I want it to drop a random sword, and I want it to drop like a wood sword, very common, a stone sword, kind of common, an iron sword, rare. So all I have to do is place the correct quantities of what I want the weighting to be. And so what this will do is it'll pick one of these equally when you roll the random loot table. So when I click this, it'll let me test the loot table. It says drop for loot from EZL number 0. Now players will never see these items because as soon as these are dropped, they disappear. So if I drop it, it's gone. It gives me a sword. But they are mainly a debugging item for you to test the loot table. So I can just drop a bunch of these and it'll give me these swords with the weighting that we had inside there. Now I got really lucky. I actually got a lot of iron swords there, but it is equal weighting for each of these items. Additionally, you can actually give like MBT components and things like that to these items inside here. So I could give myself a stick with custom data equal to test 1B, and I can also give myself give it an item name and call it test. Okay, so I can give myself some custom data, and I can throw it in here too. And then if I give myself a bunch of these, because I may not get it immediately. Oh, I got it. Okay, so it has the name of test, and if I do data get entity as selected item, you will see that it also has the custom MBT that I specified. If you want to remove something from the UI, you just click on it and it'll come back in your inventory. So that'll take it out of the loot table there. You also can actually use this to export loot tables. So if you want to use the more efficient way to do loot tables, which is with a JSON file, you would click export, and then you click here and it's copied to your clipboard. And so if I go into misode.github.io, I can actually paste this into Misode's website, click here, and look at that. It generated the loot table just like we have it. Of course, it does it with separate entries rather than one entry with a bigger weight. So that's just something to keep in mind. The reason for that is because weight is also related to the count. So if I go ahead and put a redstone dust with a count of 64 into here, then it will be very likely I get that redstone dust. So if I drop this, I'm getting the redstone dust almost every time. So the count as well as the amount of it has to do with the weight. And I may change that later. All right, so now that we made a loot table, how do we actually use it? Well, this gives you a little hint as to how to use it. There's two ways to use it. We can drop it, which would be something like for a mob. So if I do data get entity as selected item, you can see the data associated with it. So if you give yourself a decorated pot, and the decorated pot has custom data of EZL, which is an array of things that it will drop, then it will drop those things with those counts, okay? So I know that sounded a little bit redundant, but we're going to make a second loot table just to give an example here. So I'm going to go iron, copper, gold, and diamond. And then I'm going to go ahead and put one of these here. Then I'm going to put these into the loot table just so we have two, so you can see for comparison purposes. Now this is IDX0, this is IDX1. So if I do give at p decorated pot, and then I do custom data equals, then I give myself the tag EZL as an array, and then I give myself IDX0 count 1. I can also make this a comma separated list of multiple things I want it to drop. So I'll do IDX1 count 4. So it'll drop 4 of those other ones. And so when I do that, you will notice that with the /give command, it actually gives it to me and loads the loot table. And that's just because when you do /give, it actually spawns the entity. So it triggered it. But if I drop these, I will get 4 from the ores and 1 from the swords. So here's an example built in MC Stacker. I put the decorated pot on the chest, I set the custom data, and I made the drop chance maximum. And so when I summon this zombie and I change my difficulty to peaceful, then I can kill it and it will drop that loot table. So if I kill it, it'll drop that loot table just for us. The last way you can use this is with a chest instead of a decorated pot. So if you do a chest, the behavior is going to be different. Instead, if you do a chest, it will place a chest wherever this lands on the ground. So if I give myself a bunch of these and I drop them, nothing will happen until it hits the ground. And when it hits the ground, it'll place a chest. Now, the interesting thing about this method is that it actually doesn't spawn the loot until you actually open the chest. So if I go into spectator mode and I right click it, it says loot not generated yet. So when I actually right click it, that's when the loot gets generated, and it generates it just like that. The other thing to note is if you want to place these chests in specific locations, all you got to do is you got to go into MC Stacker again, okay? And you have to do summon item. Okay, so we're going to summon an item. That item is going to be a chest. It's going to have that custom data that we said. And then what we do is we can specify the rotation of the entity, and that will actually do the rotation of the chest. So if I make the yaw 90, then I summon this, it'll place the chest facing in the 90-degree orientation. So if I look here, it's 90 degrees, and that's exactly how I want it. So you can either drop them, and it will calculate the direction it's supposed to face, so it faces you, just like this, and it's not 100% perfect all the time. Or you can spawn it with a rotation, and if you spawn it with a rotation, it will use that rotation to figure out what direction it's supposed to face. All right, so that's everything about the EZ Loot Data Pack. I think it's pretty good, and it keeps up with the previous ones in terms of ability, and it actually has better performance than the other ones. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.